The faint scent of plastic and fresh ink hung in the air of Lily's cubicle, a familiar, comforting aroma that often accompanied her most inspired moments. Sunlight, filtered through the high windows of the toy company's design lab, cast a warm glow on her desk, illuminating a scattering of colored pencils, swatches of vibrant fabric, and half-eaten granola bar wrappers. Lily hummed a jaunty, wordless melody as her pen danced across the large sketch pad. Her brow furrowed in concentration, then smoothed in satisfaction as the outline of a smiling, floppy-eared rabbit took shape. This one, she mused, would play a gentle lullaby when its nose was squeezed. A touch of velvet on the ears, perhaps? Her current project, however, was far more ambitious than a simple lullaby rabbit. It sat proudly on the corner of her desk, a testament to weeks of meticulous planning and countless late nights. His name, unofficially, was Barnaby. Barnaby was a teddy bear, but not just any teddy bear. His fur was a rich, caramel brown, soft to the touch, and his stitched smile held an undeniable warmth. What made Barnaby truly special, though, was the discreetly embedded mechanism within his chest. Lily gently pressed Barnaby's paw. A clear, sweet voice, perfectly pitched and surprisingly rich, filled the cubicle. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray." She swayed slightly to the melody, a genuine smile gracing her lips. This was it. This was the magic she poured into every design, the joy she hoped to infuse into countless children's lives. Creating musical toys wasn't just a job. It was an extension of her soul, a way to share the boundless happiness she found in music. Her fingers traced the bear's soft fur, feeling the faint vibrations of the tiny speaker. The sound quality was impeccable, the voice heartwarming. She'd spent weeks agonizing over the perfect tone, the right tempo, even commissioning a professional singer to record the tracks. Barnaby wasn't just a toy, he was a companion, a source of comfort and cheer. "Lily, that's sounding fantastic." A voice broke her reverie. It was Mark, a fellow designer from the next cubicle over, a perpetually harried but good-natured man who specialized in action figures. He leaned over the partition, eyes wide with genuine admiration. "Seriously, that bear is going to fly off the shelves. The voice, it's just perfect." Lily beamed, a flush of pride rising to her cheeks. "Thanks, Mark. I really put my heart into this one. I wanted something that felt truly special, not just another button-activated jingle." She pressed Barnaby's paw again, letting him finish his little song. He has 5 different melodies programmed in, all classic children's songs. And the material is all sustainably sourced, hypoallergenic plush, no corners cut. Mark nodded, impressed. "I can tell, you always go the extra mile." The detail work on the stitching, the slight weight in his paws, it all adds up to something truly premium. "You know, sometimes I think you should be designing for a boutique brand, not us. We just churn out licensed plastic here." He gestured dismissively at the crude plastic prototype of a superhero action figure on his own desk. Lily chuckled. "Oh, come on, Mark. There's a joy in every kind of toy. And besides, I love working here. I get to make music a part of children's lives, on a scale I couldn't achieve anywhere else." Her gaze drifted back to Barnaby, her eyes sparkling with affection. Imagine a child, maybe scared of the dark, and Barnaby sings them to sleep. Or a little one feeling lonely, and he brings a smile to their face. "That's what it's all about for me." Mark grinned. "You're a true believer, Lily. Never lose that." He glanced at his watch. "Speaking of which, I need to get back to my plastic monstrosity. Deadline for the new Galactic Warriors line is looming. Wish me luck." "Good luck, Mark," Lily called after him, the cheerful melody of Barnaby's last song still echoing in her mind. She spent the next hour refining her rabbit sketches, adding intricate embroidery patterns to its vest and imagining tiny, almost imperceptible speakers hidden within its chest. Her creative well felt limitless today, overflowing with ideas and an unwavering sense of purpose. The challenges of product development, the endless revisions, the cost-cutting pressures, the occasional creative disagreements with the marketing team all faded into the background when she held a finished prototype in her hands, a tangible manifestation of her passion. As the afternoon light softened, casting long shadows across the design lab, Lily began to pack up her bag. She carefully placed Barnaby back in his protective carrying case, ready for tomorrow's presentation to the executive team. She hummed a different tune now, a light, airy melody that seemed to float effortlessly from her lips. It was a tune she'd composed herself, a whimsical little ditty that always made her feel lighthearted. Her work felt less like a job and more like a calling, a perfect alignment of her skills and her deepest desires. Stepping out of the building and into the crisp evening air, she pulled her light jacket tighter. The city hummed around her, a symphony of distant traffic and the murmur of commuters. But in Lily's world, the dominant sound was the quiet, confident melody of her own contentment. Her steps were light, her heart full. Life, at this moment, felt perfectly tuned. She had a job she adored, a purpose that resonated deeply within her, and the joy of knowing her creations would bring smiles and songs to countless young faces. What more could she possibly ask for? The air in Mr. Henderson's office was thick with the scent of old coffee and thwarted ambitions, a stark contrast to the bright, hopeful refrains that usually animated Lily's spirit. He loomed behind a monumental mahogany desk, his face a smooth facade of disinterest, though his eyes, like slivers of ice, held an unwavering resolve. Even the sunlight seemed to recoil from the room, leaving it in a perpetual twilight. "Lily," he began, his voice flat, stripped of all pleasantries, a tone that instantly soured the atmosphere, constricting Lily's chest. She tightened her grip on the worn strap of her tote bag until her knuckles blanched. "We've decided to move in a different direction." Lily's breath hitched. "A different direction?" "Mr. Henderson, my performance reviews have been stellar. The children adore the new curriculum I designed. Attendance for the after-school music program has quadrupled under my guidance." Her voice, usually so clear and resonant, quivered with an unfamiliar fragility. She recited her accomplishments, each a testament to her dedication, but in his unchanging gaze, she saw the foundations of her world already crumbling. "Your work has been acceptable," he conceded, the word delivered with the finality of a death knell. "However, the board feels a more fiscally conservative approach is necessary. We're streamlining operations. Your position is being eliminated." "Eliminated?" The word reverberated in the sudden silence of the room, a blunt blow to the core of her identity. It wasn't merely a job. It was her very purpose. She had poured her ingenuity, her compassion, her soul into cultivating young musicians, into crafting a sanctuary where melodies could blossom. To have it summarily dismissed as a mere position felt like a profound betrayal. "But the children?" she managed, her voice barely a whisper. "What about the recital next month? We've been rehearsing for weeks." Mr. Henderson offered a small, dismissive shrug, a gesture that spoke volumes. "Someone else will manage. It's a business decision, Lily. Nothing personal." But it felt intensely, irredeemably personal. The world spun off its axis. The vibrant hues of her carefully constructed life seemed to drain away, leaving everything in shades of muted gray. A cold knot twisted in her stomach, tightening with each passing second. She walked out of the office building, the glass doors sighing shut behind her like the closing chords of a dirge. The bustling city, usually a vibrant symphony, now assaulted her ears with a cacophony of meaningless noise. Taxis blared their impatience, vendors hawked their wares with insistent shouts, and the endless current of pedestrians flowed past her, utterly oblivious. Their hurried steps were a stark counterpoint to her own leaden shuffle. Tears, hot and sharp, welled in her eyes, blurring the neon glow of storefronts into abstract streaks of color. The crisp autumn air bit at her exposed skin, a chilling reminder of the sudden vulnerability that had engulfed her. She felt like a phantom, drifting through a world that no longer acknowledged her presence. Her carefully cultivated resilience, usually her steadfast anchor, had abandoned her. Eventually, she found herself back in the quiet sanctuary of her small apartment. The familiar scent of lavender and old books typically brought comfort, but today it felt hollow, mocking. She shed her coat, letting it crumple by the door, and moved towards the window. Outside, the city hummed its indifferent lullaby. Below, children's laughter drifted up from the park, A sound that usually brought a smile to her face now pierced her heart with a fresh pang of loss. Her gaze settled on her guitar, propped innocently in the corner, its polished wood gleaming softly in the dim light. It was her oldest friend, her most faithful confidant, the instrument through which her deepest emotions often found their voice. But tonight, it looked alien, an unapproachable relic from a life that suddenly felt distant. The thought of plucking a string, of coaxing a melody from its depths, seemed impossible. Her fingers, usually eager to dance across the fretboard, felt heavy and unresponsive. The vibrant, joyful music that had always filled her, that had been her very essence, had been utterly silenced. All that remained was a profound, echoing emptiness, a muted melody that faded into the quiet hum of the night. The ensuing weeks blurred into a monotonous expanse. Lily's apartment, once a vibrant haven echoing with melodies and laughter, now felt like a silent, hollow chamber. Each day brought endless sifting through online job boards, every click a fresh stab of disappointment. The world, it seemed, had little immediate use for a children's music educator, especially one lacking institutional backing. Rejection emails, coldly impersonal, accumulated in her inbox like 1,000 tiny nicks to her spirit. Other avenues proved equally fruitless: nannying, tutoring, even applying for a barista shift at the local coffee shop. Each no steadily eroded her resolve, casting her adrift, a rudderless vessel on a vast, indifferent sea. One particularly oppressive afternoon, as the sky's leaden gray mirrored her mood, Lily sat by the window, a half-empty mug of cold tea beside her. The silence in the room was dense, almost suffocating. Her gaze, unfocused, traced the delicate patterns of condensation on the glass. Suddenly, a bright, trilling sound cleaved the quiet. A tiny sparrow, perched on the sill of the neighboring building, puffed out its chest and launched into a surprisingly robust, joyful song. Its head bobbed with gusto, its minuscule beak wide open as it poured out a cascade of notes impossibly loud for such a small creature. Lily watched, spellbound. The bird sang without inhibition, indifferent to its audience, simply for the sheer, unadulterated pleasure of it. It struck a stark contrast to her own internal landscape, barren and joyless. The sparrow's song, bright and insistent, began to cut through the fog of her despair. It wasn't a mournful or contemplative tune. It was exuberantly, unapologetically happy. A faint, almost forgotten memory stirred within her. She recalled the countless silly songs she used to compose for her students: the wiggle-worm dance, the rainbow scale song, the quiet cloud lullaby. Simple, joyful melodies designed to ignite wonder and a love for music in little hearts. She thought of the smiles, the eager hands reaching for miniature instruments, the pure, unadulterated delight that music brought to children. A warmth, subtle but undeniable, spread through her chest. The sparrow, its impromptu concert concluded, cocked its head, blinked its beady eyes at her, then, with a flutter of brown wings, darted away. Yet its song lingered, an echo of possibility. "Happy songs," she murmured, the words feeling foreign on her tongue after weeks of quiet. What if she didn't need a large institution to share those songs? What if she didn't need to conform to someone else's mold? A flicker of an idea, tentative at first, began to glow. It was a spark in the encroaching darkness, small but persistent. What if she could carve out her own space? A place where children could learn, laugh, and sing, just as freely and joyfully as that little sparrow. A place where music was not merely a curriculum, but a vibrant celebration. The thought, once fully formed, felt both terrifying and exhilarating. The practicalities immediately assailed her: funding, location, insurance, marketing. The sheer audacity of it, after weeks of feeling utterly defeated. Yet beneath the fear, a powerful current of determination began to surge. She could visualize it, almost taste it: the vibrant colors of a welcoming classroom, the gentle hum of a piano, the excited chatter of children. Her own music school. The idea, once conceived, refused to be silenced. It sang to her, a different kind of birdsong, one that promised not just joy, but profound purpose. The monochrome haze began to dissipate, revealing the faintest hint of color on the horizon. Lily pushed herself up from the window, a new energy coursing through her veins. The tea remained cold, but the chill in her heart had begun to thaw. A faint, lingering aroma of forgotten yeast and distant dreams still permeated the old Elm Street bakery, an ethereal echo of countless burnt offerings. Lily, whose gait was usually purposeful, slowed to a crawl as she approached the "For Rent" sign, its faded letters barely decipherable in the afternoon sun. Her gaze drifted past the grime-streaked display windows, where a lone, desiccated croissant lay like a relic from another age. Yet Lily saw beyond the peeling plaster and chipped linoleum. She envisioned lively murals, miniature violins suspended from fanciful hooks, and the gleam of polished wood on a grand piano. She pictured children, their faces alight with curiosity, fingers dancing across keys and plucking tiny chords. A warmth blossomed in her chest, dispelling the lingering chill of recent unemployment. This was more than just an empty shop. It was the prologue to her next adventure. Armed with a lease agreement, signed with a trembling hand, and a deposit that felt like a significant portion of her dwindling savings, Lily plunged into the transformation. Her initial assault targeted the pervasive grime. Days dissolved into a rhythmic ballet of scraping, scrubbing, and sweeping. Her hands, once accustomed to the delicate sway of a conductor's baton, grew calloused and rough. Then came the paint. Buckets of cerulean, sun-kissed yellow and vibrant apple green washed over the drab walls, each stroke a defiant brush against the canvas of her uncertainty. She dreamt of a space both inspiring and comforting, a haven where melodies could unfurl. The true challenge emerged with the acquisition of instruments. Her budget was threadbare, yet her resolve was boundless. She scoured online listings, frequented pawnshops, and even charmed a local music store owner into offering a substantial discount on a few beginner guitars. The pièce de résistance, a small, upright piano with a surprisingly rich timbre, was a miraculous discovery at a community yard sale. Moving it into the shop, with the help of a kind neighbor and his sturdy pickup, was a triumph that left her breathless and sore, but utterly exhilarated. Each instrument, lovingly cleaned and tuned, found its designated spot in the fledgling school. Petite music stands were assembled. Colorful posters depicting musical notation and celebrated composers adorned the freshly painted walls, and a small, inviting reading nook took shape with a donated armchair and a pile of children's music books. There were nights when the initial euphoria gave way to a cold dread. She'd sit amidst scattered paint cans and half-unpacked boxes, the echoing silence of the empty shop amplifying the frantic whispers of her anxieties. Her savings, once a comforting buffer, were now a rapidly deflating cushion. What if no one enrolled? What if her passion, her talent, couldn't sustain a viable enterprise? The crushing weight of self-imposed expectation settled heavily on her shoulders. She ran a hand over the smooth, cool keys of the piano, drawing a single clear note from its depths. The sound resonated in the stillness, a pure, hopeful tone that sliced through the fear. This was more than just a business endeavor. It was her purpose, forged from the embers of past disappointment. With a deep breath, Lily quelled those doubts. So much remained to be done. Flyers needed to be designed and disseminated. A curriculum required finalization. And then, the formidable task of actually opening her doors. But as she surveyed the vibrant space, the instruments poised for discovery, a renewed sense of fierce determination surged through her. This wasn't just Lily's aspiration. It was Lily's Melody Makers, a place where children would unlock the magic of music, and in doing so, perhaps, unearth a little magic within themselves. She felt a profound resonance with this space, a sense of belonging that had been absent for far too long. The stale air of the old bakery was now infused with the promise of future harmonies. She knew with a certainty that settled deep in her bones that this was precisely where she was meant to be. The air in Melody Makers, Lily's freshly opened studio, carried the clean scent of polished wood mingled with the subtle sweetness of unlit candles. Sunlight, fractured by the cheerful rainbow curtains she'd stitched herself, cast vibrant bands across the unblemished floor. Today was the grand opening. Her gut churned with a complex blend of soaring anticipation and a deep, visceral anxiety. She'd arranged the diminutive, child-sized chairs in a hopeful arc, ukuleles glinting on their stands. 11 o'clock arrived, then drifted past. The prominent, welcoming clock on the wall, shaped like a genial sun, continued its unwavering tick. 11:15, 11:30. Each minute that bled into the next felt like a leaden weight settling in her chest. Had her venture been naive? Was this grand aspiration, meticulously built from the remnants of her former life, merely a childish daydream? Just as her last reserves of optimism began to ebb, the chime above the door offered a soft, musical declaration. A small boy, no older than 7, stood silhouetted in the doorway. He clutched a well-worn teddy bear, his wide, dark eyes sweeping the vividly decorated room before fixing on Lily. Dressed in a faded blue t-shirt and shorts, his autumn leaf-colored hair was a touch too long, spilling onto his face. He radiated an aura of profound trepidation. "Hello." Lily's voice emerged, softer than intended, a little unexercised. "Welcome to Melody Makers. Are you here for the ukulele class?" The boy offered a barely perceptible nod, then shuffled his feet. He mumbled something so quiet, Lily had to lean forward to catch it. "Leo?" he whispered, his voice a wisp of sound. "It's lovely to meet you, Leo," she responded, offering a warm smile she hoped concealed the frantic rhythm of her heart. "I'm Lily. It looks like you're our very first student." Leo didn't reciprocate the smile. He remained rooted to the spot, a small, quivering islet in a sea of unoccupied chairs. Lily's initial pang of disappointment at the lack of other pupils swiftly gave way to a wave of profound empathy. This little boy clearly needed her. "Come on in, Leo," she gently encouraged, gesturing toward the seating. "You can pick any chair you like. These are our special beginner ukuleles." He hesitated, then slowly, deliberately, navigated to the chair closest to the entrance, perching on its very edge. Lily approached, selecting a bright yellow ukulele. "Have you ever played before?" He shook his head, still clutching his bear. "That's perfectly fine. We'll discover everything together." Lily settled opposite him, demonstrating how to cradle the instrument. Her fingers, usually nimble and assured, moved with deliberate slowness, mirroring his tentative attempts. "This is a C chord," she explained, guiding his small, clammy fingers. "Just one finger on the 3rd fret, see? Now strum." Leo strummed, producing a faint, somewhat muffled sound, his brow furrowed in intense concentration. Lily resisted the immediate urge to correct him, instead commending his effort. "Wonderful! You've got it! Now listen to this." She played a simple, cheerful tune. "That's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Do you know it?" He nodded, his gaze riveted to her fingers. Lily repeated the melody, slower, humming softly. She detected a flicker in his eyes, a nascent spark of curiosity displacing some of the earlier fear. She then showed him the G chord, followed by the F. It was meticulous work. Each tiny instruction was met with careful, almost painful focus from Leo. He remained silent, posed no questions, yet he watched, absorbing every detail. After what felt like an hour, though likely only 20 minutes, Lily observed a subtle shift. As she played a simple progression, she caught the corner of Leo's mouth twitching upwards, a mere fraction. A tiny, almost imperceptible smile. It was enough. "You're doing so well, Leo," she said, her voice brimming with genuine warmth. "How about we try strumming along with me?" She began a slow, rhythmic strum, singing the words to "Row, row, row your boat." He joined in, his strumming still a little tentative, but now steadier. Then, to Lily's astonishment, a tiny sound emerged from him. A hum. It was faint, barely audible above her own voice, but it was there. He was humming the melody. The subsequent minutes were imbued with magic. Lily transitioned to a simple chord progression, repeating it. Leo, no longer just strumming, began to hum with more confidence, his small, breathy voice finding the notes. Then, he started to improvise, plucking a single string, then another, weaving his own quiet, tentative melody over her chords. It wasn't perfect, it was raw and unpolished, but it was undeniably his. It was music. Lily watched him, a profound sense of purpose blossoming within her. This wasn't merely about teaching chords. It was about unlocking something deep inside him, about offering a quiet boy a voice he might not have known he possessed. The empty chairs in the room no longer symbolized failure, but held the promise of future possibilities. For now, just Leo and his slowly unfolding music was enough. More than enough. The vibrant hum of melody makers had grown into a joyful chorus. Where once the small studio had echoed with just a handful of voices, now it pulsed with the energy of nearly 20 children. The clatter of tiny hands on xylophones, the earnest squeaks of recorders, and the enthusiastic, if sometimes off-key, singing filled the air from morning till late afternoon. Lily moved among them, a constant, guiding presence. Her heart swelled with pride watching Leo, once a shy shadow, now confidently leading a percussion ensemble, his dark eyes sparkling with a newfound vivacity. He tapped a rhythm on his drum, a complex beat he'd designed himself, and the other children followed, their faces alight with concentration and joy. "Excellent, Leo," Lily praised, kneeling beside him. "That's a brilliant arrangement. You've really got a knack for this." A faint blush colored his cheeks, but he met her gaze with a smile, something he rarely did when he first arrived. "Thank you, Miss Lily. I hear it in my head." The success felt tangible, a warm, reassuring blanket against the lingering chill of her past. She had poured every ounce of her passion into melody makers, and it was blossoming. Parents frequently stopped her after classes, expressing their gratitude for the positive change they saw in their children. The small, local newspaper even ran a short feature on the school, highlighting its community spirit and unique teaching methods. One Tuesday, while walking back from the market, a colossal billboard stopped her in her tracks. It dominated the intersection, a dazzling display of chrome and neon. "The Grand Conservatory of Music, opening soon," it proclaimed in bold, sweeping letters. Beneath, a pristine image of a sprawling, modern building gleamed under an impossibly blue sky. The advertisement listed an array of impressive-sounding departments: classical composition, orchestral performance, advanced vocal studies, and even a, quote, junior virtuoso program. Her small, brightly painted sign for melody makers, tacked to a lamppost just a block away, suddenly felt terribly insignificant. A cold knot formed in her stomach. That evening, as the last rays of sunlight filtered through the studio's windows, Lily overheard snippets of conversation from the departing children. They gathered their bags, their voices usually high-pitched and carefree, now tinged with an unfamiliar excitement. "Did you see the new place, Finn?" a girl named Maya asked, her voice hushed with awe. "My mom says it has a whole room just for violins." "And a full orchestra pit," Leo chimed in, his tone edged with wonder. "My dad drove past it. It's huge, like a castle, but for music." Lily paused, her hand hovering over a pile of sheet music. The cheerful clatter of instruments being put away faded into a dull thrum in her ears. She caught Leo's eye as he zipped up his backpack. He hesitated, then offered a small, apologetic smile before following his friends out the door. The studio, moments before alive with laughter and music, now felt vast and empty. The vibrant colors of the children's artwork on the walls seemed to dim. The bright, hopeful energy that usually lingered after they left was replaced by a creeping unease. The Grand Conservatory. The name itself bespoke an elegance, a grandeur that melody makers, with its hand-painted signs and second-hand instruments, could never hope to match. She traced the worn keys of the old upright piano, a gift from a kind neighbor. This was her dream, a sanctuary of music and joy she'd painstakingly built from the ashes of her old life. But the image of that gleaming billboard, the children's awestruck voices, echoed in her mind. A terrifying thought began to take root. Could her fragile dream, so carefully nurtured, simply fade away in the shadow of something so grand and imposing? The joyful chorus of melody makers suddenly seemed terribly vulnerable, a quiet melody threatened by an approaching crescendo. The resilience she had cultivated felt tested, challenged by a new, formidable opponent she hadn't anticipated. The late afternoon sun, a buttery wash through the tall windows, illuminated dust motes dancing in the melody maker's main studio. Lily clapped her hands, a sound like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "All right, everyone, gather! Round!" A small cluster of children, ranging from 6-year-old Maya, with her perpetually tangled pigtails, to 14-year-old Leo, who usually preferred the shadows, ambled towards her. Leo, his head bowed, clutched a well-worn sheet music folder. "As you know," Lily began, her voice brimming with an energy she didn't quite feel in her stomach, "our school is still very new. And to show everyone in town just how special Melody Makers is, we're going to have a concert." A very special concert. A ripple of nervous excitement, like a breeze through tall grass, went through the group. Maya bounced on the balls of her feet. "Will there be sparkly lights?" Lily smiled, a genuine warmth spreading across her face. "Even better, Maya. There will be sparkly music." This concert isn't just about showing off what you've learned, though you've all learned so much. It's about sharing the joy you find in music. It's about showing everyone what makes Melody Makers different. She looked at each child, her gaze lingering on Leo. It's about showing them your unique sound, your heart. Leo's eyes, usually downcast, flickered up to meet hers. A faint flush crept up his neck. He'd barely spoken a full sentence since starting, but his fingers on the piano keys told a different story. A vibrant, intricate narrative of soaring melodies and poignant harmonies. "We have 3 weeks," Lily announced, a note of finality in her voice. 3 weeks to prepare the most wonderful, most authentic concert this town has ever seen. The next few weeks were a blur of sound and motion. The studio, typically a place of focused individual practice, transformed into a buzzing hive of collaborative creation. Maya, with surprising focus, mastered a jaunty folk tune on her ukulele, her small fingers flying across the frets. Daniel, the boisterous 8-year-old, discovered a hidden talent for percussive improvisation, turning everyday objects into surprisingly musical instruments. Leo, however, was Lily's quiet triumph. He'd initially chosen a classical piece, a challenging Bach prelude, but Lily had encouraged him to explore his own compositions. He'd been hesitant, almost resistant, but something in Lily's gentle persistence had chipped away at his reserve. Now the studio often echoed with the haunting, beautiful melodies of his own making. He would sit at the upright piano, his long fingers coaxing out notes that seemed to shimmer in the air, his brow furrowed in concentration, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. His initial timid taps had given way to confident, expressive playing. Lily, meanwhile, juggled 100 tasks. She designed posters late into the night, her fingers sticky with glue, her mind racing with ideas. She called every local business she knew, begging for donations for a small stage, for chairs, for refreshments. She booked the community hall, a cavernous space that now felt dauntingly large. Every evening, after the last student had left, the quiet of the studio amplified her anxieties. What if no one came? What if the children, for all their earnest efforts, stumbled? What if her vision, so clear in her mind, failed to translate? The pressure was immense. The school's very future, she knew, hinged on the success of this concert. It wasn't just about revenue, it was about proving a point. Proving that her unconventional methods, her focus on emotional expression over rigid technique, held real value. Proving that music wasn't just about perfection, but about connection. One evening, finding Leo still at the piano, lost in a particularly melancholic melody, Lily sat beside him. "That's beautiful, Leo," she whispered. He jumped, startled, his hands freezing mid-chord. "Sorry," he mumbled, ready to retreat. "Don't apologize," she said, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "It's truly wonderful. Are you nervous about the concert?" He nodded, not meeting her eyes. What if I mess up? Lily squeezed his shoulder. Then you mess up. And then you keep playing. That's the magic of it, Leo. We're not aiming for perfect, we're aiming for honest. And your music. She looked at the sheet music, covered in his elegant, self-taught notation, is profoundly honest. He looked at her then, a spark of something she hadn't seen before, a glimmer of trust, a nascent confidence. Okay, he whispered, and turned back to the keys, picking up the melody exactly where he'd left off, his fingers moving with renewed purpose. Lily watched him, a quiet sense of hope blooming in her chest, pushing back against the gnawing fear. This concert, she realized, was more than just a performance. It was a testament, a promise. The air in the community hall thrummed with a nervous energy, a palpable buzz of anticipation. Every seat was occupied, a vibrant mosaic of families, parents with toddlers perched on laps, older siblings squirming with excitement, grandparents beaming proudly. The makeshift stage, adorned with a few strings of fairy lights Lily had painstakingly hung, seemed to glow in the soft illumination. Backstage, amidst the cheerful chaos of tuning instruments and last-minute costume adjustments, Lily moved with a quiet intensity, a hand fluttering to her chest every now and then. This was it, the culmination of weeks of relentless effort, of late nights poring over lesson plans, of pouring her heart into every single student. Leo, usually a fixture in the background, a shadow flitting between instruments, stood center stage. His small frame, still somewhat gangly, was surprisingly upright. The bright stage lights, which once made him recoil, now seemed to highlight the fierce determination in his eyes. A hush fell over the audience as Lily, her voice a calm balm, introduced him. Next up, we have a very special performance. Leo, who started with us just a few months ago, has written a song, all by himself. A ripple of appreciative murmurs went through the crowd. Leo took a deep breath, the microphone a cold cylinder in his trembling hand. For a fleeting moment, Lily saw the old Leo, the boy who hid behind his mother's skirt, the one whose voice was barely a whisper. But then, a subtle shift. He looked out at the sea of faces, not with fear, but with something akin to wonder. His fingers, usually hesitant, found the chords on his small ukulele, a simple, melancholic melody that immediately captured the room's attention. His voice, when it came, was clear and surprisingly strong, no longer the reedy whisper she knew. It was a song about a bird with a broken wing, learning to fly again, about finding courage in unexpected places. The lyrics, simple yet profound, spoke of resilience, of the quiet strength found in healing. His melody wove through the hall, a delicate tapestry of hope and vulnerability. Lily watched, a lump forming in her throat, as parents leaned forward. Children sat entranced, their usual fidgeting forgotten. Leo wasn't just singing, he was pouring his soul into every note, every word. His shyness had evaporated, replaced by an authentic, raw expression of self. This wasn't just a performance, it was a revelation. As the final lingering note faded into the silence, the hall held its breath for a beat, suspended in the aftermath of something truly beautiful. Then, a single clap, followed by another, and another, until the entire room erupted in a thunderous ovation. Cheers and whistles mingled with heartfelt applause. People rose to their feet, a wave of admiration washing over Leo. He stood there, blinking, a shy smile finally gracing his lips. He looked at Lily, his eyes shining with an unbridled joy she hadn't seen before. Lily, tears blurring her vision, rushed forward, enveloping him in a fierce hug. "You did it, Leo," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You absolutely did it." The audience's roar was deafening, a testament to the power of a child's song, to the triumph of quiet bravery. This wasn't just about a concert. It was about the validation of a dream, the proof that her unique, empathetic approach could truly transform lives. The energy in the room was electric, a shared understanding that something truly special had just occurred. Lily knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that this was only the beginning. The music school, born from her own pain, was blooming, a vibrant testament to purpose and passion. The last vibrant chord of Ode to Joy reverberated through the town hall, hanging in the air like a shimmering tapestry before dissolving into a thunderous ovation. Lily, backstage, pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the echoes in her own heartbeat. Leo, usually a whisper of a presence, stood a little taller among his peers, a genuine smile radiating from his face. The shy boy who'd once hidden behind his oversized violin case now met the audience's gaze with a quiet confidence. That was simply breathtaking, Lily. Mrs. Henderson, a longtime resident and a pillar of the Community Arts Council, gushed, her voice thick with emotion as she embraced Lily. The way you allow each child's unique spirit to shine through their music, it's something we've never seen here before. It's not just about learning scales, is it? It's about finding their voice. Other parents and community members echoed the sentiment. My Sarah used to dread piano lessons, one father confessed. But with you, she practically leaps out of bed to practice her own compositions. You've given her a way to tell her story. Another mother added, Leo, my son, he's truly blossomed. We always knew he had a gentle spirit, but you've given him an outlet. His improvisation piece tonight, it was pure magic. Lily's heart swelled. These were the moments she lived for. The confirmation that her vision, born from the ashes of her own professional despair, was not just viable, but vital. She had poured every ounce of her creativity, resilience, and empathy into melody makers, often working late into the night, grappling with lesson plans and budget spreadsheets. There had been times of doubt, moments when the sheer weight of responsibility felt overwhelming, but seeing her students flourish like this erased every single concern. A few days later, the phone call came that solidified everything. The prestigious City Academy of Music, known for its rigorous classical training and high-profile concerts, reached out. Ms. Evans. A crisp, professional voice on the other end began. My name is Dr. Eris Thorne, director of the Academy. We were profoundly impressed by the performance of your Melody Makers Ensemble. Your unconventional approach to music education, particularly the emphasis on individual expression and improvisation, is truly innovative. We'd be honored if your students would consider performing an opening set at our annual Young Virtuosos Gala next month. Lily's breath hitched. The City Academy, the very institution that represented the pinnacle of musical achievement in their region. The irony wasn't lost on her. The world that had once dismissed her now sought out the fruits of her independent labor. Dr. Thorne, she managed, her voice a little shaky. That would be an absolute honor. We would be thrilled. The weeks leading up to the gala were a whirlwind of focused energy. Lily coached her students, refining their ensemble pieces while encouraging their individual interpretations. Leo, initially overwhelmed by the prospect of performing at such a grand venue, found renewed courage in Lily's unwavering belief in him. He spent hours meticulously perfecting the nuances of his solo improvisation, weaving intricate melodies that spoke of budding hope and quiet strength. On the night of the gala, the Academy's opulent concert hall buzzed with an air of sophisticated anticipation. Lily stood backstage, watching through the curtain as her melody makers walked onto the expansive stage. The lights caught the gleam of their instruments, and a hushed silence descended upon the audience. Leo, positioned at the front with his violin, took a deep breath, his eyes meeting Lily's for a fleeting moment. She offered him a small, encouraging smile. As the first notes filled the grand hall, Lily felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. She watched Leo, his brow furrowed in concentration, his bow moving with a newfound fluidity that spoke of hours of dedication. She saw the collective joy on her students' faces as they played, their diverse voices blending into a harmonious tapestry. It wasn't just about the music. It was about the journey, the transformation, the purpose they had all discovered together. In that moment, watching her students shine under the bright lights, Lily understood. The pain of her past dismissal had been a crucible, forging not bitterness, but a beautiful, vibrant purpose. She hadn't just opened a music school. She had created a haven where young spirits could soar, where every child's unique melody was celebrated. Melody Makers was more than just a business. It was her legacy, a living testament to the power of turning adversity into a harmonious future. The future of her school, once a fragile dream, now felt as solid and resonant as the music filling the hall. She had built something truly wonderful, and it was only just beginning.